What's up, everybody? It's Scoob again. Welcome back to another episode of Food by Scoob. This week's episode is going to be something different. It's going to be an homage to a restaurant in Philly that does not exist anymore. When I was a kid, and even when I went to culinary school, I had a culinary chef teacher that used to work at this restaurant in downtown Philly called Striped Bass. And it was a fine dining seafood restaurant. And for me, what stuck out to me was it was one of the few restaurants in the cities in the late 90s where there wasn't fried fish or seafood much on the menu. And growing up, that is all I knew. So this is pretty much an adieu or a little tribute to the restaurant that I never ate at, but I thought was cool. And having a restaurant named like Striped Bass, I thought that was cool. So I figured I would create a dish that would be on the menu. And seeing right now, after recording this video, we are in the final weeks of winter, going into early spring, which is still very hearty. What we're going to do is we got some, pun intended, striped bass. It's going to be a pan seared striped bass with a acorn squash puree. I like acorn squash. It kind of gets glossed over, especially in the heart of it. Butternut squash and spaghetti squash is commonly used all over the menu. And then we're going to have some caramelized turnips. And as for garnish, just to make it a little bit extra flair, there will be a microgreen salad with micro arugula, basil, and it will get some blood orange zest confit with a simple blood orange juice and olive oil dressing, just to go on. So for the process of making acorn squash puree, you can even use a different type of squash, but as you see, I am slamming the gore against the cutting board because it is very dense, and no matter how sharp your knife is, unless you have a cleaver, then you're going to need some assistance. And in this case, I used the weight and the thickness of the gore to help me. Afterwards, I am scooping it out on a separate piece of parchment paper just to keep my work surface clean until I seize. And then I cut them into wedges like a watermelon or a cantaloupe. And then I will begin to season them with oil, salt, and pepper heavily. I tend not to use other seasoning because they might burn off or they might get knocked off in the cooking process. So salt and pepper is the good go-to. And if you think it's a lot, it's not, because it's not going to matter afterwards. So next up, I will bake them at 375 degrees for about 45 minutes or until fork or knife tender. So as you see here, I'm checking all of them through to make sure that they are cooked for. Mind you, the time will vary. Now for the most difficult part that doesn't have an exact science, I am making a squash puree and a Vitamix, which is used commonly into restaurants. I tend to start by adding just enough milk, warm milk, to get it blended. And then at this point, I'm pretty sure I added a third of a pound of butter to get it nice and blended. I'm just to let you know, I'm literally adding 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of black pepper, and 2 tablespoons of salt. Now, the consistency that I'm going for is a very thick puree, but also this is also different because this blender is a beast. The engine is so powerful that there is actually vents on the side of it. So if you're scared of burning out your blender, you can simply just make mash acorn squash puree. And I am looking for a thickness and a texture that is movable on the plate. So right now I'm adding a little bit more milk to this, so that I could thin it out just a bit. And then afterwards you will see that I will pit the consistency and the texture that I am looking for. And I cranked this bad boy pretty up. And my tendency is that I'm making sure that the thickness is well, because if I blend it for too long, then it will be.
So this is the most meticulous part of the dish, peeling the oranges. I lucked out when I was peeling oranges. I didn't get any pith. If I had any pith, then I would have to carefully cut off the pith from the actual peel. The pith contains a lot of bitterness, but as you can see here, it went good for me. So afterwards, I julienne the orange peel as thin as possible. This is a garnish, and this also will provide a nice soft and a bit of acidity to the dish. Next, as you see here, I start to peel the rest of the rind away, and I am going to get segments out of this orange, and then I will dice it up. This plus the julienne will be part of the microgreen salad, and this will provide, the juice of the oranges will provide natural acidity to the garnish without being too much. After I segmented the oranges, I'm just going to go back to get a small dice just to match the size of the microgreens and the julienne zest. Now for the cooking part of the zest. It's very simple. You pretty much take the orange zest, put it into a pan, have some water to cover. I'm using a 60-ounce quart, but as you can tell, there doesn't need all 2 cups. And then bring it to a boil 3 times. This is the first step of the boil, so once it comes to a boil, you drain it out, and then once it's drained, you add more water in, and then you do that another 3 times. And I did the second and the third time off of camera. Now for the fourth and final process, I grab equal parts of orange juice, and sugar is essentially 1.5 cup of each due to the fact that my pan can't hold under 2 cups. I mix it up and bring it to a boil, and then I put it into a bigger container because I wasn't sure how much of the orange zest would take up in it. And then once it comes to a boil, I pour it directly into a container, and then I chill this for about an hour. If you are in a rush, you can just put this in the freezer.
So, as you see here, the most important clip so far this video is me peeling turnips. I do like turnips. Great underutilized vegetable in the winter. After I'm done peeling them, I call off the root and the tip end, and I just slice them into wedges that is roughly a 1/2 inch thick, if you really want to be technical with that. And a small turnip will provide, I guess, serving for like between 2 and 3 people. Making the caramel just medium heat until it turns to caramel, and then add water, and then I just swap the turnip into the caramel water. Off camera, I actually did season these after they came out the caramel, and it's because the salt actually helps bring out the actual flavor of the turnip, and it also offset the sweetness. You will know that turnips is done once essentially the water is almost cooked out. I prefer a non-stick pan to use this. I don't have one, so I was giving myself extra cleanup duties to make sure that I didn't burn the pan. Now
for cooking the fish part, I'm using a 8-inch cast iron pan. Let me know in the comment, maybe I'll make a video about having stuff in the kitchen and like beginner, intermediate, and professional, semi-professional. So the reason why I'm using a cast iron is because it's the best affordable conductor of heat for searing and cooking. And one thing that I did off camera, which I'm not sure if I remember if I actually said this in the video, but I actually like to dry out the fish, which unfortunately in home kitchens, you don't have space in the kitchen just to dry out fish. The reason why you dry out the fish, especially the skin, is to make the skin and flesh as dry as possible so that you get a nice cure. Earlier, a couple seconds ago, you saw me pressing it. They actually do make fish and weight press now, but essentially I was pressing it to make sure that the skin does not buckle and it gets an even sear. So I cook it for 75% on the skin side down. And you see I flipped it, nice beautiful skin, just season it with salt. So we are making the final component, which is the microgreen salad. A pro suggestion: when I tried this, I followed this, I realized that the acidity from the orange confit zest and the blood orange segments actually provided a perfect amount of acidity that went with the sweetness of the turnips and the savoriness of the acorn squash. And I started off with making a few random chores. I decided to do a little fun thing, and then I realized that it kind of helped make a good area for me to place the turnips. And then I find the simple negative space on the fish and top it with the micro salad.
Hello, Scoob. Before we start the video, please do me a favor, like, subscribe, and share the channel. Thank you. Now enjoy the video. Okay, people, and we have it. We have seared striped bass, caramelized turnips, acorn squash ring with a garnish of micro arugula, micro basil, orange confit, blood orange confit, and some blood orange segments. See you next video, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, please. See you next.